Hi, I'm Heather Hawker, President and CEO of the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra, and this is Clef Notes. I'm real excited to continue my conversation with Dr. Rachel Mazzucco. We'll pick up where we left off, and at this point, we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit about your private studio here in Lubbock and at Texas Tech.
So I have a sort of moderate-sized private studio because I also teach at Tech and play with orchestras and stuff. So I have, it shifts a little bit, but about 8 private lesson students here. And that's something that is, I think teaching a private lesson student for harpists it takes a little longer to happen for a lot of harp students. Most harpists don't have the opportunity to teach lessons when they're younger. So some other instruments you even start as young as high school, you might start teaching a student. And I did a few like sample lessons in college, but that was really all because there's a lot fewer harp students out there. So developing a studio here in Lubbock when I was in grad school and on through now the start of my professional career was sort of a different challenge and something that I've learned a lot along the way and something that I'm now trying to help my students do at Tech. So one of the biggest barriers for harp is getting an instrument, and the other one is getting a teacher. And obviously, being a teacher, I have that one covered, but helping my students get instruments when they're deciding to, when someone reaches out to me as like, maybe I want to play the harp, but I don't know where I get an instrument or how to do this.
Talk about that process.
Yeah, so usually I'll send a little email to them with some info on the different types of harp that we talked about last time to sort of guide what might be the right fit. Usually the right fit is one of the smaller sort of lap-sized harps or a medium lever harp to start. Almost all students start on those these days. But then there's also the decision, do we rent or do we buy a harp? If we're trying to rent or buy, then that has a whole slew of other decisions to make. So I'm fortunate that I have some instruments that I rent to students, and that has really helped me establish a studio. That has been kind of the difference of being able to help students get there is they can come to my house and try instruments out immediately and see which one is the right fit, actually try a little harp and a medium harp and see what they enjoy more. And for different students, a different one might be a good fit.
So can we say you're a harp collector, and can you share how many harps that you have?
I don't know that so it's in the 20s. But so
Wow.
So it sounds like a lot. I have 2 pedal harps. So I have 2 professional pedal harps. So those are my big investments. Then I have several medium lever harps. But the reason my numbers are so big is the harpsicles, the little bitty harps that I use with String Project as well as my private lesson studio. And I actually was very lucky and fortunate that those were not exactly a decision on my part. I had started looking into them and talking. I think I was hiking with my dad at Palo Duro after an Amarillo concert or something. And I was talking to him about it. I was like, so I've heard of these instruments, but I just don't know what it's going to be like trying to teach with these little bitty harps. How will students transition from, they have lighter tension on the strings. So pulling is very different on a small harp than a larger harp. And the strings are very close together because they're trying to cram in 26 strings into a very small space. So I wasn't sure how students would be able to play these and how they would transition then if they didn't want to stick with harpsichord for their whole time. If they wanted to go on to a larger harp, how would that transition be? So I was nervous to even purchase one because I wasn't sure how successful it would be. And my dad kind of made that decision for me, and harps just started showing up at my house.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like,
He's shopping for you.
Yeah.
Your personal shopper.
So he is a very clever shopper, and he found several harps at like half of the price that they normally are of these harpsicles. Don't know how he did this. He's very good at this kind of thing.
Sure.
And he's just crazy enough to actually like jump in and do something like this. I'm a little more cautious. And so then I was like, well, now I've got harps, so I'm going to try it. And at this point now that I guess this was maybe 2017 or 2018 when we were trying these harpsicles out. The company had been around for a while before then, but I hadn't played any of these instruments. So now it's been almost 10 years, and I've gotten to see students transition from a harpsichord to a medium lever harp and even to a pedal harp after that. And that transition was not at all what I expected it to be. There are definitely downsides to the harpsichords. They're kind of wobbly, like a big harp is very stable on your shoulder. And the harpsichord is a lot more wobbly. So you have to really, especially with young students who wiggle a lot, like trying to get a kid to sit still is just an impossible task. So like that has its own challenges that the harpsichords are much more present on, I guess, with the smaller harps and the bigger harps. But the transition has gone so much more smoothly than I expected, partly because many students are young when they start and they grow. So as they grow on any other instrument, they would change instruments as well. So most students starting when they're 10 on a violin are not going to play a full-size violin. They're going to play a size violin that's appropriate to their arm length. Sure. And so that concept hadn't really been in harp in my experience. Like there was the harp sizes, and whatever size person you were, you would just sit at a different height at your harp, but it would be the same harp. A beginner can start on a pedal harp, even though it's huge. Some very famous harpists, Henriette Renier, started on a large pedal harp, even though she was tiny, and she just sat on a high seat and they made these little pedal extenders. So I hadn't really thought about how similar to other pedagogy it would be to start on a smaller instrument and then progress to a larger one as you grew. And obviously on other instruments, it's just taken as a given and it works. So it has been a much smoother transition. I've been very happy with how students have progressed from instrument to instrument.
I'm going to shift gears, but I am curious. You've got 2 pedal harps. How do you decide which one you're going to play when?
It is a tough decision. So one of them is significantly more expensive than the other, but not necessarily better than the other. Usually, I will play on the Salzedo model. The name of the model is Salzedo. Usually, I'll play on the Salzedo for most things because I'm less emotionally attached to it. So if something happens, then because the most dangerous time for a harp is putting it in and out of your car. Right. And if you make a mistake and drop your harp, then bad things happen, which would be true of any instrument, but a harp doesn't have a hard case or anything that you carry it in. So yeah, the Salzedo makes me less nervous when I play with it because I got it as a professional, not as a younger person. So I love my Salzedo, but I'm more emotionally attached to my 85, which was the first pedal harp that I had. And my teacher, Susan Pejovich, actually picked it out for me. She was buying a harp at the same time as my parents were considering transitioning to a pedal harp. And she picked out a fantastic instrument for me.
Let's talk about the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra and Lubbock Youth Orchestra concert that we had back this spring. And you had one of your students, correct?
Yes.
Sit side by side. What was that like as a teacher? And how did that help prepare Marianne for the next step? And talk about her journey, if you would.
So Marianne is an exceptional student, and it is not often that I get to play with my students certainly in that high a level of a capacity. So it has been just a pleasure. This was her first year playing with the youth orchestra, and one of her first pieces was Swan Lake, and she did an amazing job. Now she'd played for a few months with them at that point, and getting to play with her and the youth orchestra was a really special experience for me, and hopefully for her as well. We got to prepare the music together some, and she actually got her music before me. So I was like, we're doing this piece. Okay, well, I guess we're going to learn this. One of the pieces, there were some issues with the part. And at the second rehearsal, David had emailed us beforehand and gone, these chords are wrong. You need to play these chords. But it wasn't written out. So that's something that a professional can handle. But I would not normally ask a student to do that. But Marianne, like I said, is exceptional and understands chords. She studied music theory. She plays the piano as well, which is also a very chord-based instrument. And so she was able to handle, we wrote in some chords. We played around with a few things to make the pattern of the chords fit the rest of the piece so that it was consistent. We weren't just, I mean, maybe we could have just gone crazy arpeggios, but we tried to keep it very within the character of the piece. And because this arrangement, there was some issue with the harp part on the arrangement, and we were able to, I think, do a very good job adjusting that together.
Improvise. I love it. And work together and...
Yes.
in an area that you usually don't have to make adjustments with music. So
yes,
that music theory really comes into play.
Typically, like the most adjustment, maybe I'll have a wrong note somewhere in a part and like have just like, oh no, that should be a D, not a C or something. Normally it's not, whole chords that I'm choosing. I am not a jazz player who does improvisation as their main thing. So yeah, this was a rare experience and I think we had a good time doing it. So,
and we're excited for next year. We're moving right forward. We plan to make this an annual tradition with the Lubbock Youth Orchestra and the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra. Side-by-side concert really gives great opportunities for our youth to sit with our principal musicians with the symphony. Okay, so super excited about Saturday, September 19th. Over the years, you and Kim Hudson, who is our principal flautist, have played a number of duets, and I'm super excited because this fall, both of you will be our guest artists for the Lubbock Symphony Chamber Orchestra concert. Share with our audience a little bit about the Mozart Concerto for Flute and Harp, if you will, and how are rehearsals going, and what are y'all excited about on that?
Yes, so I am very honored and excited to be playing this piece, and a huge shout out to Kim, who really made this happen. She talked to me about it about a year ago, and I was like, yes. And she did all of the interacting and coordinating to make this happen. So
I think Eric was pretty easy to convince that this should happen, but yeah.
Yeah, but we are so excited to play it. So the Mozart Flute and Harp Concerto is a special piece, certainly in harp literature, and I assume in flute literature as well. One of the things that is special about it is that it is a double concerto featuring two performers. And a lot of times when you're performing a concerto, you're all on your own. So getting to have a collaborator with you, and such a wonderful collaborator as Kim, is a special treat and makes it a very different experience as a performer to be able to have that team feeling while you're doing a solo. So this piece is a double concerto. Mozart only wrote a few double concertos. And in harp repertoire, the harp was starting to become a more symphonic instrument in this time, but it was still very technically new in the classical period. The double action pedal harp, which is the type of harp we use now, was not designed until 30 years after this concerto in 1810. So this was designed for a little bit smaller, a little bit less technically advanced instrument, which fit the harmonic language at the time and worked very well, but it wasn't a standard instrument with orchestral pieces at that time. Mozart wrote almost no pieces for the harp. I think that recently a few pieces have been discovered, but until now, this was the only piece I knew that he wrote for the harp. We don't have nearly as much classical repertoire as some other instruments do because we were in our mid-development at that point. So it's a special piece for that reason. It's also has 3 cadenzas in it. Not all concertos have a cadenza in every movement. So the cadenzas are these moments that the orchestra drops out and the soloists perform some sort of a special solo. In some performances, the cadenza is written by the composer, and in other performances, a cadenza is written by the performers. And we don't have any cadenzas written by Mozart, but this is a very popular piece in harp and flute literature. And so many harpists and flutists have written beautiful cadenzas for it. So one of the things Kim and I have been doing over the past few weeks is trying different cadenzas and seeing what we like about one or another. And we're getting closer. We haven't really settled on some of them, but we're getting closer.
So everyone needs to mark their calendar for Saturday, September 19th to come here.
But it will be a unique experience, not only because every performance is unique, but because our cadenza choices are going to be different than somebody else's cadenza choices.
So exciting. Rachel, oh my gosh, the last 2 episodes have been just great. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and interest in the harp with our community and educating our listeners more so on the harp and the history. It's exciting, and look forward to hearing you in concert at the Lubbock Symphony Chamber Orchestra on Saturday, September 19th. For season tickets, please call the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra box office at 806-762-1688. You can find the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra on social media. And to purchase tickets, visit our website at lubbocksymphony.org and be sure to download the Classical 105.7 app so you never miss an episode of Clef Notes. A special thanks to Rachel Boyd, our producer, and make it a great day. We'll see you